Today, I'm going to talk about completing appropriate web research, finding information about artists and their images. Generally speaking, when you start to do a web research project, you should try to complete it using best practices for website finding. And generally, those are looking for reputable websites, usually websites from museums or things that end in .org or .net. .org and .net sites are generally considered ones that are um, reputable because they are not-for-profit sites. Look for key information and facts. This can sometimes be found directly on Google. It can also be found on websites. Looking for bold information can help you look for headings quickly. And then you want to make sure that any images that you find are appropriate. They should be from your artist specifically and not inspired by your artist. And they also should be appropriate for school. Make sure that you synthesize the images to your own understanding, as well as summarizing or re-saying in your own words any text or information that you find. We would never ever copy and paste directly. We would always restate or re-say the information that you find or the conclusions that you come to in your own words instead of using the words of someone else. So I'm going to show you today some examples of how to do this. My artist is the artist Mary Cassatt. So when I type her name into Google, I can scroll and I can see there are many, many wonderful websites that exist. But what's really nice is that Google has this piece of information sitting on the sidebar here for any artist that is famous enough to have it. Not every artist will. Some artists are a little more obscure, and so they don't have it done for you already. However, Mary Cassatt is pretty famous, so she does have it. So there's a little blurb, and then you can see the key information. Here is born, here's when she was born, here's when she died. These are the art periods that she's associated with, that she worked with. She's known for her paintings, and this is where she went to school. And then what's nice is they also have some artworks that you can kind of be guaranteed were actually made by her and not someone else. When you do a Google search, many of you are probably used to hopping over to the images panel and looking for images. This can be really helpful in that you can scroll down and see lots and lots of images. There is a danger here though, in that some images, when you scroll through just a Google image search, are not necessarily by the artist. You'll notice that some of these images don't really look like they belong with some of the other ones. For example, this one. This image was not made by Mary Cassatt, but was in fact something that inspired Mary Cassatt. So there are some things that are similar to her style and some things that are not actually her work, things that are inspired by her work. So for example, this one is a student artwork inspired by the colors and themes of Mary Cassatt's artwork. So it is a little bit tricky, and you do have to sort of be aware that not every image that you come across in a Google image search is going to be of the artist. There's also the trap of finding a photograph of the artist if they lived in a time when photographs existed. Please note that a photograph of the artist, unless they were a photographer, does not count as an artwork by that artist. So if you need a self-portrait, make sure you're not choosing a photograph, but instead choosing an artwork that they drew or painted of themselves. So this would be a self-portrait. This would be a portrait. She did not take this photograph herself, therefore it does not count as a self-portrait. This one, however, she did paint herself, so this one is a self-portrait. I hope that difference makes sense to you. When you're looking for a website for information, many people like to go to Wikipedia. Usually it's the first or second one that comes up on the list, so that's why they like it. And while generally Wikipedia does have some very good information, and you can go for the short synopsis version here, generally speaking, Wikipedia has way too much information. And so it's very hard to parse out what you really want to be thinking about and looking at. While it is nice that there's lots of images and you can generally explore the work of that artist just by scrolling and looking, you do want to make sure that you're not overwhelmed with the amount of text. Generally, if you can read the quick synopsis or the summary at the beginning and the key facts along the sides, and that's a really good place to start to get an idea of who they are. The rest of everything you want to find should be your own thoughts in regards to the work that you see and the understanding that you can come to by looking at it as a whole. Another place where you can look to find artwork as a whole would be to find a museum website. So you can look at like the metmuseum.org. This is one that has a lot of artists. And when you click on a particular artist, you can then see lots of work that is all by that artist. Even if some of it you would say, gosh, that doesn't look like a Mary Cassatt artwork. Look how different this is. But she did some experimentation in other media. So this is actually one of her works, but it wouldn't be one that you would think it if you're just doing a Google image search. That's why it's interesting to look at what a museum has to offer in some variety of the artist's work. In addition to museum websites, you can also use this artworks feature on Google. Again, not every artist has this available, but if you do, it's a great place to kind of look and see. You will see a wide variety of the artist's artwork listed here, and these are ones that Google has vetted and made sure are actually belonging to the artist. So you're not going to run into that problem of seeing things that are not actually the artist's work in this section under Mary Cassatt and artworks. I hope this gives you a good idea about how to find information and artworks by your artist so that you can share what you find with the rest of the class.